I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. I'm Melissa Meli, the spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor.
I'm Tristan Miller, the saucy sleuth.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/adcpod and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/adcpod.
So I want to make something clear. I didn't laugh because what Tyler said was funny. I was just surprised.
Oh, yes.
It's very serious.
Yes, do, in fact, arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor.
I was just fully expecting something else to come out of his mouth, so...
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what was going to come out of my mouth in the moment. I had a couple of things ruminating in my mind. There's, unfortunately, so many things to say.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about the television adaptation of Agatha Christie's 1-2 Buckle My Shoe.
And that is season 4, episode 3 of Agatha Christie's Poirot.
The season finale.
Right.
The season finale.
This 3-episode season of TV movies, basically.
Yeah.
And this is different because this is the first one that we have not read beforehand.
Oh, is this based off of a short story or a book?
I am
A book.
assuming.
Oh, really?
I
did not know.
That was just my assumption.
Cool. Because it was dramatized by such and Clive, whatever. Oh, by the way, Phil, the guy who plays Jap, just recently turned, I think, 90.
Philip Jackson.
Oh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Philip Jackson. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Philip.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah.
Forgot to mention it. Shout out to our boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me double check that age because I don't want to age him too much.
I just looked up how old David Suchet is recently. Because Rich said, as we were watching the episode, I mean, he's got to be in, like, his 40s in this. I'm like, really? You think? Not in his 50s? And because I think of Poirot feels like he should be my dad.
Yeah.
Like, in his energy. But I'm looking at him, I'm like, no, I guess
Papa
40...
Poirot.
Yeah, 40 makes sense. Yeah. And he was in his 40s.
Okay, so Philip Jackson is 72. I'm so sorry.
So Philip Jackson was also in his 40s in this.
Yes.
Nope, we're just going to release this episode in, 18 years?
Oh, you know what happened? Gina Rollins' birthday was Friday, and she turned 90. And so I got the two birthdays squished together in my mind.
Gotcha.
Well, there's no way Philip Jackson's 90. Looking at him, I was like, what? No.
I mean, some people don't age. Look at Paul Rudd.
That's true.
Look at Patrick Stewart.
That's
Look at Angela Bassett.
True. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. She's what, like 33?
She's 65?
My God.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? Oh.
So little known fact about this episode, it apparently was directed by David Lynch based off of the opening. What is happening in the opening?
Okay, I was like,
I don't think that's true.
It's not.
I have it up. Director Ross Definish.
And I'm sorry, Angela is 61.
Okay. I can't believe anything you say anymore, Tyler.
Okay, David Finch or whoever you just said.
Philip Jackson.
David Lynch. Yes, so there is...
It's such a weird opening.
Okay, so this is, as we said, called 1-2 Buckle My Shoe. And the only music in this entire episode are riffs off of the Poirot theme and the hopscotch song 1-2 Buckle My Shoe.
Played at various tempos in various ominous keys.
Yes.
It reminded me of your stand-up routine.
About
Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because it's 1-2 Buckle My Shoe in a minor key and slowed down. And it's very creepy.
It's very effective. It's very strange.
It also gives a horror movie feel, which is bizarre. It's not like you're about to get murdered by a human. It's you're about to get murdered by a ghost opening.
Yeah. And I want to say something while we're talking a bit about the music. There was another thing, like a note I made. Mm-hmm. If you are watching this and you are watching those without the subtitles on, you are missing out on some great descriptions of what they think the music is.
So I did watch it without.
It was just anxious music, and I was like, same dog. But yeah, it's a very strange opening. It's like slow-mo. There's eerie chanting from children, and there's like, we're in a hospital, right, or something. We look like there's a doctor.
It's an apartment that has been converted into a dentist's office.
Yeah, but like I meant just like from the opening. You don't necessarily know that, but yeah. We're in an apartment that's been converted into a dentist office. It's a private practice, one might assume. Mm-hmm. And you see someone pull a gun, and you see the dentist fall to the ground. And it's in black and white and very strange. And then we cut to a newsreel.
Which was so unnecessary. I feel like it was really unnecessary, but... Scene setting, I guess?
Appreciated it because, I mean, we have seen that in past Poirot episodes. Like, it is a previously established convention.
Okay.
When we are going to a different country.
Okay.
Like, we also got the newsreel when we went to Greece.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, yes. So we're in India, and they're talking about some Indian history that is happening in that time. And then we see a theater that is playing Much Ado About Nothing. We see the very end of Much Ado About Nothing, where they skip over lines in a way.
The irony. Or not the irony, but...
Yeah.
It was like the audacity. And especially just, like, because of how we all know each other.
Yeah.
It was, really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those, like, I know that scene so well!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been in 2 productions and produced 1 production of Much Ado About Nothing. But anyway, so we then see the actress that played Beatrice talking to one of the other actresses in the dressing room, and she talks about her boyfriend, and then we cut to a restaurant later where they are telling this second actress that they are engaged to be married.
Yeah, and then they leave.
Yep, basically.
Yeah, and it was all like part of a touring company with the Prince of England, who was with them. It was like the Prince was visiting India to make sure that
everything was.
You know.
A-okay.
You know English people.
Yeah. Colonizing everybody.
Yeah.
Well.
Well. But yes, then we go back to modern times, right?
Yeah. So this was a number of years ago. And now we're back in England, and we see creepy children playing hopscotch again. I cannot overemphasize how often this occurs.
Yeah. It truly does.
And it didn't quite bother me as much in theory. It was the fact that they were just so poorly overdubbed by adult voices.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
Rich,
yeah.
Rich picked up on that too.
I could absolutely understand that.
Yeah.
For me, it was just like I felt immense empathy for the 2 little girls playing hopscotch that, like, for that day's shoot had to keep doing the same rhyme over and over again and playing hopscotch for hours and hours. I'm like, that must have been a nightmare.
Well, maybe they didn't have to.
Apparently they didn't.
Yeah.
Because...
Which might have to do with the fact that they were obviously... I didn't pick up that they were adult voices.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So... Oh, goodness. So this... okay. This is very confusing. This entire thing. I actually watched the first 45 minutes of it again, because I did not understand most of what happened until I got the reveal from Poirot. And then I was able to go back and be like, okay, got it. That's what this was about. And I don't know if that's because I'm an idiot or if it was poorly done.
I think we will get into a lot at the end.
It was not clear initially some of the points, Melissa. I'm with you.
I have enough trouble telling apart the actors that they choose for the most... That when you introduce these characters to us, and then certain people are supposed to look like certain people, but not... and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That, like, I just don't even understand that there's two different people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Our listener may not, because what I just said was also very confusing.
Well, I would encourage our listeners to get a subscription to BritBox so they can see for themselves and follow along with us and engage with us on various platforms.
Absolutely. And if you can't afford that, type the episode name into youtube.com and see what comes up. A lot of episodes are just there.
Yeah. So first we see Miss Sainsbury Seal.
Oh my gosh.
Who is the actress friend. Not the one in the couple, but she is back in England after staying in India, where she apparently dropped out of the theater to become a missionary.
Yep.
So she's staying at the Astoria Hotel, and she runs into an old friend, who Mr. Meli. What's his name?
Starts with an A.
Mr. Amidala and Salisbury Steak sit down for a conversation. These names are truly
just untenable.
Like, I was just gobsmacked by just the names of the characters in this episode. Like, it does nothing to help anybody.
Yeah,
like,
Frank,
it's just so unnecessarily complicated.
Frank Carter, are you kidding me? So confusing.
Thank goodness for that one, right? Miss Sainsbury Seal is her name, and his name is I'm gonna find it.
Ambryatus?
Yes.
Ambryatus.
Yes, it is Ambryatus. Do you know? Because
Jesus.
I'm so sorry. There's a scene later on where both Poirot and Inspector Japp are talking about Ambryatus, and you can tell that they both have the hardest time saying this person's name, because Philip Jackson, God bless him, happy birthday, you're so young. he oh my god, he will take a pause. He'll go, Mr. Ambryatus.
Yeah.
He's clearly trying to phonetically. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, they meet. He gives her back a water bottle. They were friends in India, and then they also took a train back together, right?
Yeah, and he complained about a toothache, and she's because they have their reunion at the desk of this
the
hotel, front desk.
And the hotel clerk is really annoyed. It's great. It's the end of her 8-hour shift or whatever. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Essentially, Miss Seal just over-explains to this woman that could not care less about how the two know each other and why he has her hot water bottle.
Right.
Yes.
It's very boring. It doesn't matter. So, so they chat for a minute, and she says that she has just... Oh, I guess the thing that happens first is that she runs into...
She goes to the dentist. Mr.
Mr. Morley? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Mr. Morley, the dentist. She goes there, and as she's coming out, she bumps into an old friend, the husband. Yeah, from the newsreel clip time.
whose name is Blunt.
Blunt,
Yes.
yeah.
So, she runs into Mr. Blunt and says, "Oh my gosh, I was friends with your wife." And he's like,
sure.
"Oh, yeah. Oh, right, of course, I remember you, blah, blah, blah. Great. Huh."
And Poirot also is leaving the same dentist as well at that point.
And Poirot clearly does not like going to the dentist.
Yeah, it's very funny. I wanted to make note of something. When we finally see Poirot coming into this dentist office, the episode has been going on for what feels like an hour and a half without Poirot. It's like 20 minutes before Poirot shows up.
Wait, no, it's really early on when he's at the dentist.
It felt so long. And then there's just chunks without him afterwards. Like, it feels like a good, 30 minutes with no Poirot. Like, it's just very interesting.
Actually, one of the things that I do like is that they'll show a little scene and then Poirot will walk into the shot and you really just get, like, his legs and his cane.
Yeah.
They do this a few times. Some of the way that this is shot is very fun and interesting. I will say that. But, like, he walks past the scene of Blunt and Sainsbury Seal meeting at the car. He just, like, walks past. You see Poirot and he keeps walking. It's like, all right, that's fun. Also, when he was going into the dentist, I was like, why is his office empty? It looks like the same apartment that all of his anyway just set differently, but
it may well be.
So Poirot
what solidified it that it wasn't was the lack of Cayman in the office.
That's right,
of course.
So they go so Poirot goes to the dentist, then Miss Sainsbury Seal has the appointment with the dentist, and then Mr. Blunt has the appointment with the dentist.
Yes.
Right. So then we get the scene at the hotel. I don't know why I thought that was first. It wasn't. At where she meets Mr.
Mr. A.
And Ambariotis, there we go. And then he reveals to her at some point in this that he's having a toothache.
On the train. That's why she gave him the hot water bottle to ease the toothache. So he's been having it for days.
Right.
And she's like, you simply must go to my guy. He's quite good.
Yes. So she also does mention to him that she has also run into Mr. Blunt, who was married to her actress friend from her days. Goethe on her days in India. Great. And he has this kind of unintelligible look past his face, which it's very interesting, and I didn't notice it the first time I watched, but I did the second, which is going to be the theme. So then we see him finally give in and go to the dentist, right?
Well, we see him return to his room.
Yeah.
Which is like this gorgeous hotel room.
Yeah.
He's actually like a pretty gorgeous man in his own right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think.
That schnoz.
Yeah. It's quite striking. And he makes a phone call. What did he say? I don't remember what he said on the call, but like it was kind of like alluding to the fact that like because of the things that she said over tea that, he's then making an inquiry of some sort.
Yeah.
From my understanding, he just says, I want to speak to Mr. Blunt.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. And then they cut away.
Right. So then he does eventually go to the dentist. You see all the comings and goings, and
we see Mrs. Seals go to an apartment to make a visit. She is greeted by the landlord or super of this building who takes her up to the flat.
And there's also a scene, may I say, of a very angry young man, kind of inexplicably, played by Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Hot young Christopher Eccleston. My God. He's so moody and so sexy. Love it.
Yeah, truly. But we get that, and we also get a conversation with the dentist and his wife about about the dentist's assistant who is seeing Christopher Eccleston's character, and the dentist doesn't approve of him at all because he is in a union of fascists. So he might be right for this one time.
It was a pleasure to see the wife, Georgina Morley.
Oh my God, I loved her.
Rosalind Knight, who I know is horrible grandma in Friday Night Dinner. And I saw her face and I was like, she looks very familiar. And just the mannerisms, I was like, oh, horrible grandma.
Oh,
and I was very, very excited.
I do not know that, but I really enjoyed her because her brother is like complaining to her and she just has this bored look on her face, like
completely stone-faced.
Come off it. It's like, just let the girl fall in love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yes. And Poirot does see Christopher Eccleston in the waiting room when he is there. Jumping around a little bit, but it doesn't matter.
There's a separate day. On the separate day, a bunch of appointments have been made to see the dentist. One for Mr. A, one for Poirot, one for Salisbury Steak, and one for Mr. Blunt. So these are all people that are there for an appointment, and then also Frank Carter, played by Christopher Eccleston, is just there for some reason.
Okay, isn't
he always?
There are too many dentist appointments in this, and the fact that there's more than one day of dentist appointments is just not something that anyone should have to keep track of this early in a movie.
How do you think they feel, Melissa?
Yeah.
9 out of 10 dentists recommend you make an appointment.
That's why the secretary has just gone off somewhere. Also, during this day, the secretary is not there, so it's just the porter, the poor young man, who's so frazzled. But basically, there's a series of them going in to their appointments, and then a woman comes up to the porter. Everyone else is left, and it's just this older woman, and she goes to the porter, and she's like, I've been waiting for 45 minutes. This is ridiculous. I demand to see it. He's not answering. I'm gone. And I was like, lady, 45 minutes for a waiting room is nothing.
Yeah.
Like, number one.
Yes. And sorry, just before we get into it, at this point, we do see that Poirot runs into a woman getting out of a car, and he sees the buckle of her shoe, her brand new patent leather shoe. And then as she's getting out of the car, she inexplicably knocks the buckle off of the shoe with her other foot. And Poirot hands her the buckle, which is like a clip-on buckle kind of deal.
Yeah, decorative, I suppose.
Yeah, I used to have those when I was a little girl. I'd have little clip-on things for my little patent leather shoes. Oh yeah, I was cute.
And she also drops her purse. It was just like, this clumsy woman.
Yeah, and
what
I
is going on?
Listen, I'm clumsy too, but that was impressive.
Well, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yes. So that is when Poirot runs into the woman, Miss Sainsbury Seal, who is going to her dentist appointment.
Yes.
Yes.
Poirot has come out. Salisbury Steak has gone in. Then Mr. Blunt has also gone in. And then
Mr. Ambriotis.
Yes, Mr. Ambriotis has gone in.
And then the lady who is upset about her 45-minute late appointment.
Yeah.
So the porter has to go check on him.
And he is dead. And he has a revolver in his hand and a bullet hole in the side of his head. So it looks like he's committed suicide.
And of course, when Japp shows up, he's like, well, open and shut case then. Obviously a suicide. I always get the feeling from Japp that he, like, just wants to go home and have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And we see that later on.
Oh my god, what a delight.
He does a bit of gardening. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's really charming.
But yeah, absolutely. I think he is very similar to a lot of police characters in mystery fiction of just like, I just want to do my job. I just gotta...
Yeah, like...
I really wish we also, like, an alternative title could have been A Porter Past 9.
Ugh.
Because the porter finds the body.
Uh-huh.
I still might take the title to use it for maybe my own mystery novel or play.
That. Yeah, TM.
Because maybe it's about a porter, maybe it's about a steakhouse. Who knows?
Maybe it's about a very attractive porter who's a 10. And they come into town, and it's a porter past 9. They're a 10 out of 10, and everyone's confused.
Maybe he sells port wine.
Maybe,
the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
But I digress.
So, basically, Japp is like, it does seem like an open shut case, and Poirot is like, it's still weird because he wasn't moody at all, and he seemed fine when I was literally here 3 hours ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And they talk to his sister with whom he lives, and she's like, he was fine, and everyone is like, yeah, it's very sudden and strange. And then...
it's also a hell of a time to choose for suicide, like, in the middle of your appointments of the day.
Yeah, that is...
like, with no inciting incident.
It's very inconvenient.
I understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I mean, we don't see... like, he might have, like, gotten a letter that was, like, very incriminating.
I was actually thinking, are they going to look into that? See if, you know, like, he put the wrong medicine and the wrong pill, like in It's a Wonderful Life, or something like that.
Sure. Well, I mean, that is kind of what happens, because Mr. Ambriotis dies from an overdose of Novocaine and adrenaline, which is, you know,
that's
even people at Betty Ford are like, don't even try. But anyway, so he's passed on, and so they go to investigate his situation, and they surmise that, like, that the dentist had accidentally killed him and then felt so bad that he offed himself.
Right. So
that is their working theory.
Exactly. So, but then they do catch up with Miss Neville, the secretary.
Yes.
And she says to them, that sounds like a really unlikely scenario, because dentists get so in the habit of giving the exact correct dose, and it's like second nature to them. Like, it would have been really bizarre of him to have accidentally given him such a high dose that it would have killed the guy. So that seems really plausible. And then they talk about her boyfriend, Frank, our friend Christopher Eccleston. And it is said by her and by the sister that the dentist had tried to convince her not to date him. And so Frank was probably pretty ticked off about that. So maybe...
Ticked off? That's so wonderful. I haven't heard that in a while. That was great.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that was just very charming.
Thanks. I haven't used it in a while. I don't know where in my brain I was storing that phrase, but there we are.
Real peeved about the whole situation, if you ask me.
So Poirot says, you know, I'd love to meet this guy, and she's like, well, he's so busy. His only day off is Sunday. And Poirot tells her, well, it's a good thing Sunday is tomorrow.
Yep.
And they go to this very charming outdoor concert in a gazebo. which was not even a thing that I realized that I wanted to do until I saw that and realized that can't do that right now.
No. But once again, I will say though this. The concert is for a union of fascists that was pro-Hitler during the 1930s. So like,
okay, so
that was why everyone's like, don't date this man.
I mean, okay, I somehow didn't pick up on the fascist part of it, and I guess Rich didn't either, because I saw the armband and like it looks so Nazi-like to me that it, you know, there wasn't a swastika on it as far as I could tell.
No.
But it did, like, it was a jarring image to me, and Rich just turned to me and said, well, before the Nazis, there also just were armbands on a lot of uniforms, and they kind of stopped doing that after the Nazis, you know, made them infamous.
Well, I mean, I didn't not see it.
Oh.
Oh. Yes.
I had to Google it because I was like, why is everyone so disapproving of this union group?
I see.
I Googled it, and it was basically like a far right group. Yeah. And they do say, however, that he lost his job.
Yeah.
And he has been trying to find work wherever he can. And this is alluded to also during the conversation they're about to have with Poirot, that he is not doing the work for this group necessarily happily, if that makes sense. He seems to be put in a position where this is the only job he can currently get.
Yeah. I think we can pretty confidently headcanon the idea that he doesn't want to be there, and he realizes it, and he gets out.
Mm-hmm. There's also something alluded to in the reveal that supports that I can bring up later if you remind me.
Yes, because I want to love Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah,
because
I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to this man. What am I supposed to know him from?
He's the ninth Doctor from Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's also in Thor: The Dark World, perhaps a
but
movie.
He is not like, you don't see his face in that very. Yeah. It's behind a lot of makeup.
And a few other things as well. He's decent at it. The acting.
Okay, I'll have to look into him later.
Quite good in this episode.
He kept reminding me of like a young, and I looked into it because I thought he was just a young Mr. Carson from Downton Abbey.
Mm.
Oh, I don't know the Downton Abbey.
I don't know.
Like
Downton
a young.
Abbey.
Funny enough, the actor's name that I was thinking of is Jim Carter. Who's married to Imelda Staunton, but it wasn't him, obviously.
Yeah. No, Christopher Eccleston was only on Doctor Who for one season, but he was wonderful. And yeah, I thought he had some really lovely scenes in this. Like, he was doing some really good acting work, and with some of the other actors that we get in this, it's like he's playing a different game than the rest of them.
That's a very polite way to put it.
Anyway.
But they have a conversation with him briefly, talking about like why he was there, and he's like, I went to speak with the dentist, and then I just left because I got fed up waiting around. And Poirot was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's that scene.
When do the two of them meet Miss Seal?
Oh, that would be next.
You're right. So they they have an interview with Miss Sainsbury Seal, and she
looks quite different from the beginning of the episode.
I mean, does she?
I thought so.
It didn't occur to me that
she looks exactly the same to me. I'm sorry to both of these actors. I could not tell them apart.
Oh my gosh,
if you put them up in a police lineup, I'd be like, they both did it, I guess.
So the thing is, I mean, we're clearly giving away some like end of episode stuff, but the problem I have is that when I'm trying at the beginning of movies, I'm trying to keep track of names and faces, and if they look similar enough, I can't keep track of them anyway. I have this in TV shows when I'm first watching them. If, like, there's two brunette white women in the show, unless there's something that, like, sticks in my brain that distinguishes the two of them from each other, I don't know which one's which for, like, a couple episodes.
I just thought they were trying to make it so painfully obvious that it was two distinct actresses, and just the way it was shot.
Fascinating.
Like the big reveal, like with the second actress, like when she has the hat down and like goes up and reintroduces herself into the camera. It was like, okay, clearly like they're trying to make this a clear point to the audience.
And when I watched it the second time, I caught all of it because I knew, first of all, I knew what was going on, and second of all, my brain had adjusted. It's like, oh, okay. These are these two faces.
Yes. Two things. One, Melissa, you must have had such a hard time with Twin Peaks when at first you started watching it, because all of those women look exactly the same. They all look exactly the same. They're all wonderful looking, but they all look exactly the same. Number one.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So
Number two, I had a similar experience to you, Melissa, of like, once the reveal was made and they start playing clips, I'm like, oh, that's obviously now. Like, I can tell now.
Yeah.
But yeah, but what I'll say is this, I still think, I don't know, like, the performance from the person they interview in this scene is so consistent with the other person.
Right.
Because that I did just assume it was the same actor and the same performance. So that's great on both of these actors for coming together and being the most obnoxious person on the face of the planet.
So, yeah, once I watched it the second time, I did catch that the person who was impersonating Miss Sainsbury's Seal was, like, you know, taking it a little bit further. You know, like, kind of mocking
Sure.
the real Sainsbury Seal. And they're, you know, at the end of the interview, you see Japin kind of roll his eyes at Poirot like, oh, this lady, what a weirdo.
There's a really good moment. There's two really good moments, and they're ingenious in their own way. Of like, during the interview, she says, like, they're like, you remember who came out? And, you know, she was like, yeah, there's this really peculiar looking foreign person. And then she realizes it's Poirot. And that's a really good setup for later for kind of covering up her tracks, because then, you know, it's a nice diffusion. And then also she does this thing at the end. It's like, well, you know, if there's going to be an inquest, I'd be embarrassed. And she's like, and Jab's like, oh, don't worry about it. Just, you know, stand up and speak clearly. And she's like, oh, that's very funny. I used to be an actress. And then, like, she's like, actually, in the papers, I would, you know, could you imagine my name in the papers? And then it says her name in full again, which is Maybelle, not Mabel.
Right.
It's Maybelle.
Mabaelle. And she spells it for them.
Yes. And they're like, okay, lady.
Yeah, basically.
Fine.
Yes. And so... is this the point where then we get, or maybe we've talked about a couple of other scenes out of order slightly. I'm not sure. But Poirot does go over to Jap's house. Mrs. Jap is not there again.
She's never there.
It's like,
she's like Columbo's wife.
And I love it.
Or is it just the one mystery Agatha didn't write, where Jap is suspected of murdering his wife?
Oh my gosh, the fan fiction.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I have a wife in Canada.
Oh, different implications there.
Yeah, and I've said what I said.
But there's a very funny part. So what's actually lovely is he's gardening. Poirot drops by unannounced, says, like, what's this about? And Poirot then says it's about work, and Jap tells him, well, then I better put on a spot of tea, don't I? So it's very sweet and charming. It's like, oh, my friend came by unexpectedly, as opposed to this being annoying. I'm going to go, like, all right, let's have let's have some tea then. It was kind of like this is a nice surprise. And I found that very charming, because I would just be horrified if a friend stopped by unannounced. I guess I would be pleasantly surprised at this point in quarantine. I'd be like, oh, a person. This is very irresponsible, but I'm so happy to see you.
I want to say, number one, yes, it's a very charming scene, and I love it very much. Mm-hmm. The dynamic between Poirot and Japp in this is absolutely superb. But I want to bring something up. Melissa, you do an impression of Japp, and I do an impression of Japp. I don't think I've ever heard Tyler have a go, and I would like to.
Maybe in the future.
Okay.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, at some point.
It'll be a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, right? There's also, I don't remember what Poirot goes to talk about, but whatever, because it's so overshadowed by their dynamic for me, and like me looking around Japp's home, which we've never seen before, I don't think. And Rich pointed out that there's like police batons like on the wall on a plaque. It's very strange. And at one point Poirot asks for a tisane, and Japp looks at him like, now come on.
Like, you know me better than this.
Do I look like I have a tisane?
He does offer him a biscuit, and Poirot's like, no.
No, thank you. Because he also makes a face, because it seems like the tea that he has brought him is terrible.
Yeah. Oh, God, you love just a working man. You love to see it, folks.
Yeah, he's trying. It's like, when someone offers you food and it sucks, and you don't want to be terrible.
I still feel like we have 3 hours left.
We
but
do.
Yeah.
I know that he talks to Mr. Blunt at some point, as well as his secretary.
Mm-hmm. Because his sister-in-law and her daughter are there.
Oh, yes.
The Americans.
Yeah.
Yes.
In air quotes.
Yes. These British women playing Americans. It's amazing.
And they're
New Yorkers.
Oh, it was so fun. It's so bad. I love it so much. But yeah. So they're there. Tyler, take it away. Why are they all talking?
They are talking because they're trying to get information about Mr. Morley and like why he was there, and asking if he was suspicious, and how long he had also been going to Mr. Morley is like brought up.
Oh yeah, when Poirot and Japp drop by Blunt's office. Yes.
And then
the women are there because they are his deceased wife's family, and apparently he pays them, like he gives them money, just for being there.
Technically, he doesn't. Technically, the bank does it, and that's what he keeps saying. And he's like,
right, because the wife had the money.
Yeah, the wife had the money, and
him.
it's trustees have control of the money now, and he is tangentially involved. They receive an allowance.
He married into the bank, it seems. And at a certain point, this did happen before the whole Japp thing. This is all out of order. It doesn't matter. But they meet with another guy from the bank as well, who seems to be in more control over it. In explaining how he got married to the wife when it seems like, because the first wife, who was Gerda, who because he was engaged to her, right? Yes. And it is assumed that she is dead or something, right? And then he married this other woman who died like 4 years after they got married.
Then I think from here we get to arguably my favorite bit of the episode.
Okay, here we go.
We get like a close-up of this newspaper clipping about Salisbury steak being missing.
Right. They can't find her. They need to re-interview her. They have no idea where she is.
Yeah.
And we get introduced to the landowner super of the building that Salisbury Steak had entered before.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy like turns to his wife and is like, "It's that woman that was here before. That she's gone missing."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then cut to these two police officers in the apartment building. And, like, he's leading up the stairs, and like, all right, well, I mean, you think she's in there? Like, do you have, like, a pass key? And he's like, no, I don't have a pass key.
Right.
It's like, it's her place where she lives. Like, I don't have access to that. And they're like, well, we can't just break it down. And he was like, well, you have to. She could be dead. And then, like, they look at each other, and it's just like, are we gonna do this? Like, really?
All right.
Fine. And then he does, like... the worst like run into a door I have ever seen. It was like clearly to like mark, like to let the person know behind the door to get out of the way before he does like the for real run into the door.
Because then on the second one it goes straight down.
Yeah, it goes straight down.
I thought he was just a wimp.
I saw him like full stop and then like lean into the door as well, and it just looked to me like the direction had been, well, you don't get it the first time. And he's like, God, how am I going to do that? And what I probably would have done as an actor as well, just like stopped and been like, oh, so bad. So bad. Panic. It's just a panic moment.
It was so much fun to watch.
It was great. Oh, the best.
I want to talk also about one of my favorite moments in this scene, continuing with these two characters that we don't see again, which is such a shame. They're so fun. These two cops. They come in, and the landlord's like, Mrs. Chapman, and the police goes, hey, we're in charge here. Mrs. Chapman.
Oh, yes, so good. It's so good.
It's like a classic bit. Just a classic bit.
And then eventually, they're going through a very big apartment.
It's very big.
Yeah.
Those two cops should be a part of, like, they should be the supporting actors in Just Jab.
Yes.
Yeah. Love them. So they finally get to what appears to be like a laundry room, and there's a hamper in the foreground of the shot, and I'm like, the body's in there. That's where the body is. I know this one. That's how it happens. If there's a hamper or a barrel or a freezer, that's where the body is.
And they're like, should I open it? And he's like, go for it. And then like he's like parsing through, and then like pulls back a sheet, and there's the body with the legs clearly sticking out. And I was like, you could have clearly seen the legs sticking out before you opened this hamper.
And they
so
are
silly.
The legs are shod in these buckly shoes like we have seen before, but they are not brand new. They've got little scuffs on them. The toe is beat up. Very relatable, I understand.
And when Poirot shows up with Jap, two things. One, he goes to the shoe and it's still fully intact. It's not been repaired or anything. So like it's like also a weird moment there. But also we just fully hear the porter. The porter, that's what he is. He's a porter of the superintendent, I guess. Just fully vomiting. You just hear off screen a man fully vomiting from the stink. And I'm like, that's fair. The body's been there for like 3 days.
Yeah, it was a very effective method of saying, because also David Suchet, acting his face off too, comes in and makes makes a look like this,
and he covers his nose.
Yeah, gross.
I love it so much because they have him like covering his mouth and trying not to smell it, and then it pans over to Jap, who's just standing there like nothing, and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's the difference. The whole series sum up.
Yeah. What? I've gone nose blind to everything. Don't have
nose stupid. Don't you know what that means? It means I can't smell. Can't taste food anymore, can I?
Twilight 2, you're so terrible.
I've got nosebleed.
Oh boy.
I've got to get hooked on phonics for my nose. Not sure what that means, but...
There we are. Okay, so... Oh, yeah, and at one point, they're looking for Miss Sainsbury's seal in her hotel room at the Astoria.
Yeah.
Well, they're not looking for her, and they're looking for evidence, because she's not there. And Poirot finds a pair of cheap stockings.
Yeah.
I love how Poirot knows how much these stockings cost. Like, why?
Hey, Poirot After Dark, we don't know what that life is.
That's
you
true.
know?
That's true. I mean, so we had also seen her bags being moved from the Astoria into this other...
The Carlisle.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other place, yeah. Where they've just found her body.
Also, so when they find the body in the hamper, it has been, like, the face has been really disfigured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's not
And
great.
they
They don't remark how, right?
No, they do
just
not.
say it's been disfigured, right?
Yeah.
And they do not show it either, which is
can
fine.
I tell you, far more effective.
Yeah.
Because, like, whatever I had in my head was so much worse than any terrible makeup job they could have done.
For sure.
In
Absolutely.
my mind, she had pimples.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding.
It's just she's killed her and then she rubs a bunch of bacon grease on her. So she breaks out.
Oh, no.
Or like they put like
an
glasses
animal.
on her, like where it's like a 90s movie.
Yeah.
Where like the girl's only attractive when you take the glasses
So
off.
Yeah.
she pans down. It's just full Darth Maul makeup. You got
So-
Put her in a kabuki mask because racism in England.
Yo.
Yes. But, so then there's confusion about who the body actually belongs to.
Yeah.
Who this person was.
Because the inquest.
Okay.
The inquest. They go to an inquest, and the new dentist who inherits all of his patients was like, I can confirm that that's Mrs. Chapman, not Miss Salisbury Seal, through dental records.
Right.
And so they're like, okay, so Mrs. Salisbury Seal is still just out there. And then who is this Mrs. Chapman? And then they go through and they go, Mrs. Chapman had the same dentist, though. So that's like, it's all weirdly connected to this one person. 3 people have died, all of which have the same dentist.
Huh.
Yes.
And we're also talking about like fascism and Nazis in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And her initials are SS.
Interesting. Bit of,
Conspiracy theory?
yeah.
Perhaps.
Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah.
Agatha Christie was an Illuminati.
Oh, boy.
First she's a fraud, and now she's an Illuminati.
Perhaps she still is.
Ooh.
The Disappearance of Agatha Christie, Part 2.
Oh, boy. So, what...
Do you want to just take the break and then do the
Yeah.
sum up?
Sure.
Oh,
I don't think
I
anything...
we still have like half of the thing to go through.
There's a
I
very
want to
confusing...
die.
There's a very confusing part where there's like... They track down Chapman and he's just married to this new Mrs. Chapman and they're like
Yeah.
in bed.
Because it's the wrong Chapman.
Yeah, the wrong Chapmans.
It's not important. It's very strange.
It's very odd. It
Because
feels
they're
like it's...
obviously like in the middle of boning. And
Yeah.
they just-
They're getting it on. They're interrupted by the police. And it feels like it's something just left over from the book that doesn't really translate.
Yeah, it does. All right, well, let's take this break.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the smooth jazz, dulcet tones of the Amateur Detective Club. You know where we are, besides at home, safe. We're on the Scavengers Network. You can go to scavengersnetwork.com and check out all the goodies there for you cool cats and groovy pups. Like Historical Hotties, very horny podcast. Myth Takes, very funny podcast. State Your Case, an evaluation of the American system. Relevant? You decide. Go to scavengersnetwork.com. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll come back and have some other things to tell you at the end of this ad break.
Oh.
Yeah.
What a tease. So, yes, also you can find us on social media at ADC Pod and on Twitter, which is part of social media, and Instagram. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at ADC Pod. Follow us, please. It helps. Also, it gives me a little hit of dopamine every time we get a new follower. So know that you'll personally be doing that for me. And
please, for just a like a day, keep Melissa's depression away. Only you can help.
That's right. Also, go on to Apple Podcasts and please rate, review, and subscribe to us. But only rate when you're giving us 5 stars. Yes. Do that.
Yes.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Opulence, intrigue, mystery, oceans, food, screens. For only for as low as $1 a month, you can have access to ADC's Patreon, patreon.com/ADCpod. Do you have what it takes?
So the other thing I was going to mention
Yes.
earlier, and then I
Okay,
thought I'd wait.
Is this the ad break still?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm doing my smooth voice. Give me 1 second.
Keep that in.
Hello, everyone. All right. So what I want to mention before was we got some merch over on Teespring, I believe. Teespring, yeah. It's in the show notes. Go there. We have some new merch. Order and Method t-shirts and coffee mugs, which I've ordered for us. And all the proceeds that go to that go to I'm word stupid too. Fighting for justice across the nation / whatever. And it is, you know what I'm trying to say. You can also pick whatever organization if you just send us a message and be like, I want these to go to this specific thing, and then we'll say no. And then...
Yeah, as long as it is in keeping with the spirit of what we are talking about, we reserve the right to say, no, we're not giving to, a political campaign
I was
or something.
joking, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an organization that is adjacent to the Black Lives Matter movement, whether that is a bail fund or a resource for Black people's mental health or just going and getting a cup of coffee at a Black-owned bakery or whatever. We'll find some way to take your money and give it to someone else. End of thought.
Also in the spirit of giving, Friday, June 26th is TDF's annual Giving Day. Our country is facing enormous challenges, a global pandemic, and a long-due reckoning with the perpetuation of racism woven into the fabric of America. For 52 years, TDF has worked to make the performing arts accessible to all. We will be here after the health crisis subsides to help theaters reopen, help audiences reemerge and reconnect, and help our producing colleagues to address the systemic racism pervading the American theater. But to do all this, they need your help. TDF is committed to making sure everyone has the access to the transformative experience when the lights come back on Broadway and beyond. 85% of TDF's revenue stopped due to the closure of performance venues. And we are counting on people like you to help sustain TDF's critical operations through this crisis, so we can be ready on the other side. So I hope you will join us for TDF's Lifeline campaign at give.tdf.org. Poirot.org.
What a successful thing we've done. So,
You guys, we did an ad break. It was so good.
yeah. So, Poirot, can we just skip to the Poirot getting everybody together? Because it's easier to explain once we're in the room doing it. But Poirot gathers everybody at the headquarters of the bank.
The bank?
The bank quarters. The head bank quarters.
In this lovely conference room.
It's very grand.
It's very funny. It's because they're in Mr. Blunt's office and like his relatives are there. And then, we forgot a huge thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Poirot goes to stay with Mr. Blunt, and then it turns out Christopher Eccleston's the gardener, and a shot goes off, and then they arrest Christopher Eccleston, and then he goes to talk to Christopher Eccleston, and is like, I know it's not you, but you need to tell me the truth, and he tells him the truth of, like, he went in right away, saw the body at, like, 12 p.m., and then ran away because he was nervous, admittedly.
He was like, everyone's gonna think I did it, because... I had a reason to, but I didn't, so I just got the heck out of Dodge.
So he goes to visit him in jail, and he's like, by telling me the truth, you've confirmed what I already know, and then he gathers everybody together.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And then, so they go to the office, and Mr. Blunt goes, are there going to be any more? Because we should probably go to the conference room. It's very passive-aggressive.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
So Poirot lays out what happened. So what happened was Mr. Ambrosius was blackmailing Mr. Blunt.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Blunt set this whole thing in motion. God. I started this very confidently, and then I'm like, wait, what? How did we get here? I'm already in the weeds.
Okay.
Tristan... Are you raising your hand?
Yeah,
okay, great.
I can, unless, Tyler, you want to.
I think we can tag team it, but you can kick it off.
Start us off.
So, it all starts with Miss Salisbury Seal bumping into Mr. Ambrosius and telling him something that no one else in the world knew, which is that Mr. Blunt was married before.
Right.
He learns this information. He calls up Mr. Blunt, and he's like, hey, sucker, guess what? I know about your first wife that you're technically still married to, by the way. He, quote-unquote, bigamy.
She's still alive.
Yeah, she's still alive. You just got married twice. You shouldn't have done it. And then he's like, okay, that's fine. And then he makes sure... Somehow he knows... that Ambrosius is going to go to the dentist. Right. Because Miss Salisbury Seal meets up with Gerda, who is still alive and is acting as his secretary.
Right.
And so she tells Gerda that, she recommended, somehow in conversation it comes up. So through that, they learn that Ambrosius is going to be going to the dentist. Mm-hmm. And so he... during his appointment, kills the dentist, pretends to be the dentist to kill Ambrosius, and then goes away. And sets it up to look like a suicide. And then Miss Salisbury Seal dies because she shows up later, I'm sorry, and then bumps into Gerda, who's like, well, no one can know that I'm who I am. So she's got to go, and then gets killed. And her face gets disfigured, so people assume that it's not actually her. So there's been a double this whole time.
Right, so she's the first one to die. Mrs.
Yes.
And it's not actually Salisbury Seal, it's something else, and now I've completely forgotten what it really is.
I think it's Sainsbury
Seal.
Have I been saying Salisbury?
Yeah, you have.
We have. And I was... completely fine with it. I just want to make sure that.
I mean, just anecdotally.
Yeah. So yeah, she's technically the first one to die, and then Gerda replaces her.
Yes. So when she meets Poirot, it is at the dentist when they pass each other with the shoe buckles.
Mm-hmm.
And he picks up her shoe buckle. It is already Gerda impersonating. And
she has really nice shoes and very, very small feet. And Poirot is like, when he finds the body, he says this really whack thing of like, and man, when I saw the body of this woman, her feet were ugly. These were the ugliest feet I'd ever seen.
It was
really just ding dang ugly feet.
So she comes in with these brand new shoes, but they're cheap and clip on. And then when the body is actually found, the dead body of Miss Sainsbury Seal, the shoes are worn, and they're a different size. Yeah, completely. So because
he deduces using the stocking size deduces the size of the feet.
Right. That's all. Yeah. Exactly. So she is dead first. The Gerda is impersonating her at the dentist, and she goes in and switches the dental records around. So then that's when the dentist has to die so that Blunt can impersonate the dentist and kill Mr. Ambryatus. And then it's revealed that his secretary was his wife the whole time. Mm-hmm. And she, was such a fine actress that they've just been playing this weird sex game for a long time.
I'm sorry.
I ain't mad at it.
Weird sex game might be the new love relationship, Melissa. But yeah, they have a thrill, a sensual thrill from pretending to be other people, and the naughtiness of it all. It's
we're role playing.
Very, I'm not gonna yuck anyone's yum, but yuck.
Well, you can when it involves murder.
Yeah. And then at the end,
they're literally horny for murder. I'm sorry.
Yes, they are. Mr. Blunt says a wild thing, which is, I know I've killed 3 people, so technically I should hang. However, I really do such a great service for everybody else in London that shouldn't I be hailed as a hero, really?
Yeah.
And I got so concerned because we haven't read this before. I was like, is this going to be like a weird episode of Poirot where he just lets him go?
Yeah.
Because I cannot handle that right now.
I was a little worried because Poirot just leaves without doing anything. And then you do hear Japp arrest them. But for a moment.
But we also get
yes.
Aaron Eckhart.
Christopher Eccleston.
Jack. Sure. What's his name?
The character is Frank Carter.
Frank Carter. Okay.
Yeah. So
we get one more time. Jack Carter.
Frank Carter.
Frank Carter.
Jack Carter is.
Frank Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
It's so what about me? I almost went down for this.
Yeah, you framing
what
me.
What did I do to you?
Because of course, the shot in the woods when he was gardening, when the gun was shot before he was arrested, and he picks the gun up because it was thrown at his feet. That was all done by Gerda/Helen. The
secretary wife.
Yeah, secretary wife to frame him up for the murder.
Yeah.
And
then Poirot tries to guilt trip Blunt about that, and Blunt's just like, okay, and
yeah. He's like, frankly speaking, I just do not care.
Sorry, I don't have emotions.
Yeah, it's interesting though.
Which I admire the consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
in the writing and the structure of the character, not the characteristic of being terrible.
Well, if you're gonna be terrible, be terrible. If you're gonna sing out, sing out.
No, if you're gonna be terrible, be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They get carted away. The Mr. and Mrs. Blunt get carted away, and then Poirot and Japp have this nice moment of
say, it's all this, you see all this affect, and it's still, they're just the same as us little guys. And Poirot's like, there's no little guys, particularly me. And it's very funny because David is 5'5" or whatever, and Philip Jackson is 7 feet tall.
He has to, while he's saying he's not small, he has to crane his head to look up at
and I've been there.
Jap. Yeah, it's great.
It's really fun.
And that is the end of the episode.
Yeah. All right. So,
I give it a 2, because 1, 2, that effing blew. It was just so convoluted and confusing and just so unnecessary and really disappointing, because I looked into it because I was like, what did people think of this? Mm-hmm. And apparently this was a very faithful adaptation of the book on which it's based. So it makes me very nervous for when we eventually have to slog through the book. It gets into it because I did enjoy certain performances. And it was so wonderful to see Rosalind Knight, and something that I hadn't seen her before. She just brought joy to me. Mm-hmm. And I did like the essence, for lack of a better term, the vibe of the parlor reveal.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. But yeah, overall, this was just all over the place. Yeah. And the dubbing was, again, oh my god, it was awful to me. That killed it for me.
So, yeah. I'm going to give it a 2.5. Part of it, which is straight down the middle. Because there were things I liked very much about it. In the actual mystery itself is fascinating. The crime, the motive, everything about that is really interesting. And some performances were very good, interesting characters. The problem is, for me, as I was kind of alluding to before, the way it was set up. Now, if this is a very faithful adaptation, I hope it's in a way that that it just hits all the right notes about the plot, rather than how it's set up, because I think that it felt like there was something done in the adaptation that made it more confusing than it needed to be. I could see how this book could have been written better than the execution of the actual movie. That's my hope. But yeah, the way it was set up was mystifying. There was really no way, especially if you don't recognize that someone else has started taking over and impersonating Miss Sainsbury Seal. And again, when I watched it through the first 45 minutes or whatever it was, the second time, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And little things that Mr. Ambriotis did with his eyes when he reacted to the news of Mr. Blunt being around. It's oh, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
There were things about it that were very interesting. It's just, for a first time watch, it's almost impossible to follow. And, we're not particular, we're pretty intelligent. We should be able to at least hold on to who these characters are and kind of follow what's going on, rather than waiting until the end and having to go back and figure anything out, because it doesn't hold interest. I think that's the problem. It just makes it uninteresting as opposed to intriguing. Mm-hmm. That's my problem.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I figured out one of the reasons I had such a hard time with the actors being switched, because they both look like that. Tyler, you know what I'm talking about. Why go to 4 stores when you can
go to just One.
The woman that says, "Honey, you've got a big storm coming." They both look enough like that woman from that Vine. Well, I'll send you a link, Melissa.
Great.
Oh, but it's so good.
It's so good. We've talked about it before in the program.
Okay.
It's fine. But yeah, they look both enough like that when I think back, I'm like, what do these two people look like? That's all I can think of is, honey, you've got a big storm coming, which is not helpful. So I think there's that. And then also, it was very confusing. It was very confusing. Now, here's the thing. The aesthetic quality of that first, I'd say 30 minutes with the weird, like that opening, I was like, okay, what is happening? This is fascinating. And I was like, if they continued to have that tone throughout, but like 30 minutes in, they just drop it and it's a normal episode of Poirot. And I'm like, and then at the end, they kind of bring it back a little bit. And I was like, okay, fine. I mean, they do have like the eerie music, but like they should have gone farther with it if they're going to make that strong of an opening. I think, and God bless all of these people. I'm sure whatever happened.
Okay.
The acting was subpar, in my opinion, with the exception of Suchet and Jackson, who know what they're doing. Eccleston was adequate. He was very good. Like, he's doing something different than my issue, though, is like he's in a different show. He's just like acting at a different show, which...
It was a better show.
It's a better show, but like it doesn't fit what everyone else is doing.
That's all right. I don't blame him.
whereas like that scene with just he and Suchet is really good because you have two actors that like are really, really strong.
Yeah.
And also like, and this is also we watched the Suchet version of Murder on the Orient Express for a like a telethon thing recently.
Sorta, yeah.
And seeing how good the show gets and how good the acting gets, and then going back to these, like, you know, cornier 90s actors, which is fine, which is very charming in its own way. It just was a little bit jarring, I think, for me. So there was that. The plot was very difficult to follow, as is evidenced by how we've all slogged through trying to retell it. And... the only redeeming thing is Jap and Poirot. That's the only thing, because there's some really great moments, not just with the house, but there's also this really great moment where Poirot goes to Jap and he's like, I need to see Frank Carter. And he's like, well, that means you have something. You should play it straight with us. And he is like, I am. I'm doing it as I'm trying to be as fair with you as possible. And the fact that their relationship is still contentious, but they're still friends, is really compelling. Because, like, they are still trying to both do their jobs to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
And so, like, those little moments are the thing that, like, the aesthetic at the beginning, and then those little moments are basically the only thing I truly enjoyed about the episode. And for that,
What's your rating?
I give it a 1.
Okay.
It is a fine enough thing to watch, but the other thing that makes me so sad, and you've talked about this before, Tyler, if this had been the last episode of the series, like for the season rather, I wouldn't come back necessarily to see what they were doing next, because I'd be like, that was weird, that was hard to understand, and there was weird sound effects going on throughout, and I wonder if there's any like publications we can sort through at the time to see people's reaction to it at the time, like reviews. It's not as far as like how faithful it is an adaptation, but like what generally people thought about it, because like it was like a not standard episode of Poirot, which like if they had switched Death in the Clouds and this around, it would have made more sense for me, the order.
Yeah. Also, the tonal thing that they start out with, I actually think confused me, because with the girls and the hopscotch, and that I was like, what is this? I thought that was going to be part of it, rather than just, they named the episode, and I assumed the book, 1-2 Buckle My Shoe, and they used the heck out of that hopscotch song, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to these children? Oh, this is very creepy and weird. And it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Whoever decided to put that in just was like, oh, same name, gotta use it.
They're not even witnesses to anything.
No, they just exist. They're like these specters of evil that never get paid off, and it's extraneous.
It's like they're constantly doing it. Every time they go to this dentist, it's the same two children constantly playing hopscotch. Like, go to school.
Perhaps they represent the two different identities of Sainsbury's seal.
Ooh.
No, not at all.
No, I agree.
Too much.
I agree as well. Like, you also don't need them because of the fact that, like, the mystery is solved with the buckle of a shoe. Like, that's the reason it's named that. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's, like, already there. It's built into the story.
Yeah.
It was just so weird, and it wasn't like off-put. I love that kind of weirdness.
Yeah.
But it was
but
just
it didn't
like
fit.
It just was so strange.
It didn't make any sense.
It was so weird.
And it was so notable. It was so framed that like it was confusing.
I was watching this with Christina, my girlfriend, in the room, and she said, "Oh no, what?" when it started happening. She was like, "Is this Poirot?" She literally asked, "Is this Poirot?"
Yeah, I think Rich might have said the same thing.
Yeah, it was very strange. Yeah. Hence my comment at the beginning of like, David Lynch must have directed this. It's so freaking weird.
And I can't get 1 2 Buckle My Shoe in the minor key as sung by these terrifying adult women pretending to be children out of my head.
Can I tell you? I had never heard the full rhyme. That was the best. I'll give it a 1.5 because I learned the full rhyme.
Great.
Because it dropped some knowledge on me.
God. Okay, don't watch this one, guys.
Ooh, drop some knowledge on me. That could be a fun learning parody of Poison.
All right.
Love it. If you're going to watch this one, just skip to the scenes where Christopher Eccleston
take a couple benzodiazepines beforehand. Chill out.
Watch Rosalind Knight. She's a delight.
Oh yeah, she's great too.
Oh, the woman who played the daughter of the American, she was very fun. She was quite fun. She had a fun performance, and she was clearly English because at one point she does an impression of an English accent, and it just sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Which was really funny for me.
Yeah, I can't believe they were supposed to be from New York. Like, there's no way those accents are from New York.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's fair. That's probably what they think of us when we try to do accents.
I don't know what you mean. Phil Jackson's going to call me up one of these days and be like, "I understand you've been doing an impression of me."
I think you calling him 90 would give you the phone call before anything else.
I understand that there's been some slander's been said.
And I know that our listeners from England mostly listen to the podcast to hear us talk about Poirot rather than for our winning personalities. But apologies for our terrible accents.
Yeah, well,
Hope they're not too offensive. We're not really trying. Does that make it better?
No. No, it doesn't, but, it is what it is. It can't be what it's not.
Sure.
It's true.
And with that, I call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close.
Gavel sound.
This episode could not be what it isn't. That's my review.
Buckle my shoe. 3, 4. Door.